Hi, James. This is Cindy Shaw, and welcome to the Money Mastery Series. How are you
Hi,
doing
Cindy.
today?
I'm doing really great. Thank you for having me here.
Fantastic. I was so pleased that you were interested in supporting this series and bringing so much of your knowledge to our viewers today. Would you mind giving a little bit of background on your biography, the work that you do, and kind of what you stand for?
Right. Well, basically, in my early 20s, I developed an interest in mind power, law of attraction, spirituality, metaphysics, and all of that. And one of the most fascinating things about it all to me was that we can actually have an effect on our environment strictly with our minds. And when I realized that this was real and I understood that I could use these principles to attract money, that was one of my greatest needs. And so that's how I just really made a massive study of this. I collected up, books, and within a couple or a few years, I was teaching this kind of thing around the New Age book circuit in San Diego, long before computers and all of that. And it was some time before I actually wrote my first book. And I wanted it to be a go-to manual on this subject. I wanted to really just, bring it all down, boil it down, make it concise, easy to understand, and easy to implement. Because sometimes people are intimidated by the whole idea of actually using their minds in this way, and that they
Mm.
actually to understand that they actually have this kind of power. And also, I just really wanted to bring it down and make it so simple, and so that people know that it's real, they know how to do it, and they know specifically how to apply this to their financial advantage.
That's wonderful. And I love what you said about breaking it down into, sort of bite-sized chunks so that there's a step-by-step process and just kind of focus on the couple of steps immediately in front of you instead of being completely overwhelmed by a flood of information, which kind of can create self-doubt, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of power in focus and specificity. If we
Mm.
just really bring it down and focus on one process or one outcome, or using a process to create an outcome, there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah, and I noticed, one of the things that jumped out at me in your material is your chapter on desire, right? And we all have things in our mind that are maybe the someday, or I'd like to, or it's a dream, and we still believe it's a dream and not a reality. And I liked what you said about, really, if you have 100 things you're wanting to do, you really need to narrow that down. Could you expand a little bit on how best to guide people to kind of going from 100 things on their mind to really focusing on the two or three things they really want?
Yeah, it's all about prioritization. I mean, there are so
Mm.
many things that we all want to do. I mean, we anybody, what would you like to do or accomplish or have or be? And we could all just come up with a huge list. But the cold reality of it is that in a physical body on the material dimension, we only have so much time, we only have so much energy, we only
Mhm.
have so much resources at any given time. And so if we want to accomplish, especially, big goals that are way outside of where we've been before, we
Right.
need to get a lot of other way. And so, desire is the starting point of all human accomplishment, advancement, attainment. And when we understand that, but we understand that if we spread our desires out too wide, that we'll
Mhm.
only have small amounts of energy for each thing. And so, if we develop the strong enough desire for financial freedom and attracting money, whether it's income levels, net worth, and all, when we realize that the more energy we focus in that direction, the more likely we are and the quicker we can bring those results about, then the more serious we'll be. And also
Mm.
think about this, that if we do that, then that is going to bring us the resources and the money and everything else we need to do all those other things that we put on the back burner. But if we
Mhm.
don't take care of first things first, with which are, one is health, and
Mm.
one is money. I mean, if we don't take care of first things first, everything else is just going to fall by the way and not not come to fruition.
And even if you make compromises in one or two of those areas, you're not going to achieve the results that you want, at least to the fullest extent, it seems like.
That's right. That's right. And
Yeah.
I just always like to remind people that in modern society, money is the key to everything
Mhm.
that you want. I mean, you know, you sleep in a bed that costs money. You know, in the
Right.
morning, you'll turn on the heater in the winter, costs money. The car, the gas, the food, the clothes you wear. I mean, everything. If it wasn't for money, you would literally be walking around naked, right? Everything else is money. Everything
Thank
else.
goodness that's not happening.
Right, right. And so, yeah, yeah, it's, people think, well, I'm a spiritual person, and so I can't,
Mhm.
I'm not interested in money or I don't care about money. Well, everybody cares about money. They're either lying or they're self-deluding themselves. Everybody cares about money. Proof of that is that most people spend most of their time, not counting sleeping, doing things having to do with money, trying to earn
Right.
money, make money, invest money, save money. So we
Or
care
spend
about,
money.
yeah, spend money. That's a big one. And so, yeah, we need to be honest with ourselves. We do care about money. We need money.
Mhm.
Money is good, and there's an easier way to get it than the average person goes about it, which is the law of the jungle. It's who you know. It's business cycles. It's the economy at
Right.
large. But really, it's not about. I have written before. It's not about the markets. It's about the mind. It's not about the economy. It's about consciousness.
Mm. I love that, and I believe it's wholly true because, your power and your, energetic alignment with abundance or having a better bank account, really aligns from within, not necessarily what's going on outside. So if you can get a hold of your mindset and move in that direction, then you're gonna be focused and singularly focused on growing that money or growing that abundance.
Yeah, exactly right. And the more understanding we have, the deeper we delve into studies of metaphysics and also quantum
Mhm.
physics, the more we'll come to understand that the inside is the outside, right? It's
Mm.
a reflection. They're not separate things, but that what's on the inside, the mental, emotional, consciousness, energy realm, that always has to come first. And then we see outpictured in our world what we first create there. And so that's really important to understand. And I think it's very freeing. It is for me because
Mhm.
people think, oh, I have to, I want this home or I want this job or I want this fortune. And it's like I have to figure out how to create it and build it and all this. And you don't really have to do anything out there. You have to just do those things in your mind, which is much
Mhm.
easier than when you think I have to go out here and, have this house built of my dreams or whatever. When you do it in your mind and you realize that that's where it's happening, it will come into appearance here at some point, as long as we stick to it, we keep our belief and faith and expectancy at the needed levels, and we follow our intuition, which is a big one, to do the things that we will need to do along the way. If we have all of those ducks in a row and we understand mind power and we apply it on a daily basis, really an hourly basis, it's not a
Mhm.
practice that, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. No, it's ongoing. You have to monitor your thoughts, change them when they're counterproductive and all, but it's an easy process. There's nothing hard about it. The hardest thing is just transitioning from the way you think now to the way you need to think. And
Mhm.
that's simply a matter of developing a new habit. And we can all develop new habits as long as we will habitually do what we habitually do. So any habit we want to, bring about, we just need to start doing the things that we would do if we had that habit. And then lo
Yeah.
and behold, one day you'll wake up and you have that habit.
And even thinking like, okay, I'm a person that does have a greater bank account than I do now. Um, how would that person act? Who would I need to become, right, to be at that level or the level that I'm not at now? It's really is a bit of a mind game, I would say. So
Right, right. Yeah.
can I break this down or maybe simplify it a little bit for our viewers here, because it can be an overwhelming kind of esoteric concept. Let's apply it to this series. While it's free for everyone, they do have the option to buy lifetime access. It's a very inexpensive fee for them to buy lifetime access. And my visualization for that is, because I want that money to go to a good portion of it to go to a nonprofit that I am really passionate about. And so this morning I was trying to apply your logic and saying, okay, I'm just going to visualize how much money I would like to raise for this nonprofit. It's called Yoga Behind Bars. And this isn't a plug for them, but I just wanted to use this as our example. And so I went from that to saying, okay, I'm going to just picture this many people would sign up to raise this much money, and then I can donate it to them. And then I'm going to invite them to watch the series. So that's as far as I got. But what would you advise me in that example to enhance that whole experience and achieve that outcome I was looking for?
Well, you're basically looking, one of the techniques I teach is basically act as if. It's a
Hmm.
well-known technique in metaphysics. And but also I have chapters on think and feel as if, think
Right.
and results, and speak as if. And so you want to bring all of that into alignment with this vision that you have, or this goal you have, this picture you want to create. Certainly affirmations can help,
Hmm.
visualization can help. So there's all of these techniques, but they have to be congruent with what you're
Hmm.
actually trying to create. And then you need to have consistency. But also, um, I like people to remember this phrase, and it's this or something better for the highest best good of all concerned.
Mm.
That's one thing. That's kind of a safety mechanism to keep us from forcing into existence things that either should not be, or the other one is trying to force things into existence too soon.
Mm.
I have two books that will be coming out before the end of this year. So that's like within the next month, two new books. One is on thought power. The other is on divine order, which is
Ooh.
a subject that most people, they don't even know what that means. I was having a
Right.
conversation on Facebook today in private messages with a family member, and I could see that she come around, like she was asking me questions. Well, what is it? This and that, and does that mean this? And she was coming around very quickly. So even though it's not a part of our the normal person's mind, once they hear the way I present it, and so we come to understand that for things to be in divine order, they have to come about in divine time. Nothing can come
Hmm.
about in the wrong time and be the right thing. And so that's a safety mechanism so that we don't create counterproductive, harmful things. But it's also a wonderful relief valve for our consciousness and our stress levels, because
Right.
we decide this is what we want, but guess what? And here's where I want it by. You can set goals, you can have deadlines. I like this
Hmm.
by then, but if it doesn't happen, I am in no way, shape, or form going to be disappointed, because I know
Ooh.
if that thing is supposed to happen, it will happen in due time. And if that thing isn't supposed to happen, then something better is going to come along. So in your situation that you mentioned, it's a
Hmm.
perfectly good thing. I'm sure it's supposed to be and all of that. But
Hmm.
there's just subtle distinctions that the average, you call it truth student or whatever, the average person that's into this kind of study, they don't, they haven't spent the time, they haven't applied for a long enough period of time to really get all the subtleties. But when you do, there's no pressure. I mean, everything is
Mm.
exactly, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Each person is exactly where they're supposed to be. They are in the only place they could possibly be based on everything that came before this moment.
Right.
And so when we start to look at it in a more holistic, pulled back view, everything starts to make more sense. And that's when things really start to flow more easily, and abundance flows more abundantly. And we eventually find that we're doing less and we're gaining more. And it's
Mm.
just a wonderful process, but it is a subtle nobody can get this in a month if this is a new project. They can attract $1,000 tomorrow, but to
Mm.
really start viscerally understanding and living and breathing the subject, it takes a lot of time, but
Yeah.
progressively it gets deeper and deeper. Because
Just
I was
like,
working, I'll just say I was working Mind Power Miracles, parking spots with visualization and all that within,
I've tried that
days-
one.
yeah,
It's so great.
within right, within days and weeks of learning about this stuff in my 20s. But when you look back 10 years later and in 20 and then 30, years and more, uh, you people have no idea what they can evolve themselves into.
Mm,
Something that really, if some of the stories I have, which are beyond the scope of this particular interview, but they seem superhuman, and they're not
wow.
superhuman. They're just beyond what most people usually are able to, demonstrate. But
Yeah,
just
let's
when
talk a
you
little.
go into the
Mhm.
process,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but
that's
I would love to just, I got so excited about that concept. It's really hard to train our minds to accept or have like this faith, or we might want to call it a blind faith, that something different than we can actually imagine can occur. And our imagination is somewhat limited by our own experiences, right? As everything we've experienced up until this point in time. But what's available in the future, or what's available to manifest, if you will, may not be anything we've ever imagined before, and it shouldn't be limited by our imagination. So, do you have any advice for people to kind of suspend that, realm of, well, if I haven't experienced it, then I can't possibly imagine it, or I don't know someone that's done that, so it probably isn't true. How would you guide someone through that?
right. Well, I think, I can look and say, well, I've never done anything like that before.
Hmm.
But, and I could say, well, I don't even know anybody who's ever accomplished this before.
Right.
And I can look further out and say, but there are people who have accomplished this before. And
Mm,
if you look deeply enough into these other people and their stories and stuff, a lot of them started with whether you're trying to be a rock star or
mhm.
a best-selling author, whatever you're trying to do, you can find examples of people who started out with less, who maybe
Right.
were even less equipped through natural aptitude and just everything. And so
Right.
if anyone has done it, then we can do it, but we can do things that other people have never done. And that's why I
Mhm.
like to get people to focus on not so much in the beginning, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I want to attract this, and I want to be, start with, I really want to understand this process. I
Mm,
really want to know what is mind power? How does it work? And it's basically simple. The way I boil it down to its simplest terms are, there's four mechanisms that allow you to focus and exert mind power in a controlled way. And that is your thoughts, your feelings, the images you allow to dwell within your mind, and the words
mm.
you speak. It's just
Yes.
those four things. And if you understand those four things and you start to modify that, um, your expression of those things, then you'll start to see magic happen. And so
Mhm.
it's not so much about, and as important as the learning and the study is, right? You can study 1,000 books, but you
Right.
will gain more actual visceral firsthand knowledge by application. That's where that, and that's why I
Yeah.
say when you look back 10 years and 20 years, it's through constant application and seeing the results, seeing miraculous things happen, which just naturally make your belief and expectancy just rise like a hot air balloon, which just naturally brings in, acting as if without having to force yourself, because you do believe, you do have the
Mhm.
expectancy. And it just, if people had an idea, even this tiniest idea of just the tiniest potential that is untapped within the human mind, they would get so excited and they would start devoting themselves to understanding this process and then to applying it into areas that, they're interested in, whether it's
Mm.
physical health, it's professional success, financial success. You can apply it to all areas. But I always go back to, I wrote, How to Attract Money Using Mind Power as my first book, because I recognize that with enough money, then they have a much easier time to accomplish in all of those other areas. To this date, people have no one's ever come to me and said, "Oh, here's a thing that's not affected by money in modern life." I haven't heard
Right.
it yet, whether it's
Money ruined
personally,
it.
yeah, whether, no matter what it is, it can, directly or indirectly, money is a factor within that thing, or can be.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch a little bit on two things. One is what you were saying about your words. Um, and I want to tie that with everything we're hearing externally right now about the economy, about the world, about the unrest that's going on outside of us. And it may tend to create fear, or people might think, oh well, this is going to happen and it's going to be a disaster. And so the words that we hear, we can also absorb and kind of imprint upon our subconscious, but also the words we tell ourselves, right? And so rather than say, I've got this, as you said, I may not know how to do it right now, but someone's done it before, therefore I can do it, right? And just sort of using that language, we'd much rather just, or we have a tendency to really focus back on the fear of what we don't want to have happen. So I don't know if you
Right,
want to add on that or not.
right. Um, is there a question like
Just in terms of the types, how do our own choice of words really impact this ability to manifest?
right, right. Well, our words, people don't give them enough credit or respect,
Hmm.
because number one, our words um, divulge and reveal our true thoughts. Like we can
Mm,
say, "Oh, I'm doing this, or I want that, or I'm studying, and I'm positive thinking all the time now." But nothing ever seems to work out. Well, boom, you are not positive thinking all the time now. Like the people
right.
tell you. But I like to tell people, you have one mouth and two ears. So you speak, and it goes out into, most people use that to say you should speak less than you hear.
Right.
But I use the fact that we have one mouth and two ears, to say that we reveal and expose what we think through our words, but then they go back in our own ears and reinforce what we just said.
Oh, we're
And if
speaking to
that's
ourselves in that case, right?
right, right,
Mhm.
we're basically um, hypnotizing ourselves. We're conditioning our
Wow.
own subconscious mind through our own thoughts. And you mentioned the current, situation that we're in is a worldwide upheaval that we're far
Hmm.
into now. I'll mention briefly for people that I've written a book that can really help. It's called uh, The New Normal.
Hmm.
And that book, and I encourage people to read that, The New Normal, but also every single book, because a lot of people are really in financial trouble right now and everything else. Every single book that I've written, which is 11 to date, plus the new ones coming out very soon, are all absolutely free online. Whether you go
Wow.
to Amazon or Barnes and Noble or wherever, you can get every single book I've written in digital format, whether it's Kindle or Kobo or whatever, for free right now. But I
Oh my
definitely
goodness.
tell people, if there's two books, How to Attract Money Using Mind Power and The New Normal, because of what we're going through right now.
Oh, fantastic. That is just such a generous offer. I know our viewers will really, really appreciate that, because we're trying to point people to real action that you can take now. And I love what you said about just educate yourself, understand the process. It's like, instead of handing someone a fish, you're teaching them to fish, right? Or create fish out of nothing.
Right,
And
right.
so I love that. And so we'll make that information available, right, through our viewers, with links to your free book offers. I
Well,
really
there,
genuinely
yeah, they
appreciate
can
that.
go, certainly, they can go to one page on my website, and there they can access all the books. Yeah,
Oh, fantastic. And I think that ebook for, manifesting using mind power will be a great place for people to start, because I do like those steps that you follow in terms of that embodiment and, sort of knowing viscerally, right, that feeling of what it is you want to create.
right.
So I think that's beautiful. Well, wonderful. We will be sure and point our viewers in that direction. And I wanted to just thank you so much for talking today. Is there anything else you wanted to add or make sure that we cover that our viewers would benefit for their money mindset?
Well, all I can say is that I'm sure a lot of people are excited by what they just heard. How could they
Oh,
not be? Whether they know this subject or not, people are excited. I know this through experience. And I tell them, don't just go on to something else now and forget what you just heard. Follow up.
right. Oh my goodness, that's
Follow,
so
follow
true.
up on this. You got something by the tail here and you need to hold on to it. Mind power works. Mind power works in all
Mm,
areas of life, including attracting money. And mind power will work for you if you work it. And I want people to come away from this empowered and with a sense of direction so that they can literally transform their lives starting today.
that's beautiful. It really is empowering, and you're actually giving people hope, right? There's hope for a different future. There's hope that I can actually control an outcome, not control an outcome, but create an outcome that I'm really looking for despite everything that's going on outside.
Right. Regardless of what's going on outside, it's what's important is what goes on inside of us, and that will
Mhm.
help us to manage our immediate reality that we want to see for our personal selves and for people around us.
And make sure we're telling ourselves good things, right? That that it is possible, and even like you just said, talking to ourselves about, I will take action on this. I will spend more time on that, because I do feel like people spend more time worrying than they do on actually studying how and visualizing that they could actually do it.
Right. And worrying is mind power as well. And
Mm,
but it's focused on the wrong things, and we tend to attract what we, you know, um, dwell on and obsess about. And if it's a
oh,
negative, then that's what we're pulling towards ourselves in that moment.
that's so, so very true. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much again, James. I know we could probably talk for hours, but I would love to honor your time and um, honor our audience's time and keep this into bite-sized chunks. But they now know, and we'll provide the links of where to learn more about your wealth of information so that they can grow their own wealth themselves. So
Yes,
thank
certainly.
you.
Certainly. Well, thank you too. I've enjoyed it.
You bet. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.